Namaskar and good evening to everybody. I, Jesus Say, today will be organizing a webinar on the legacy of Dr. Vishnu Sridhar Vakankar. Dr. Vakankar was born on 4th May 1919 at Nimai, a town in the Malwa region of Indian state of Madhya Pradesh. His distinguished academic career earned him the title of Pitama of rock art studies in India. From 1954 onwards, he carried out extensive field work on rock art in India and abroad, Europe, North America, and the Middle East. It is estimated that he discovered and documented some 4,000 decorated shelters in India alone. In 1957, he discovered the Bhimbetka rock art site, which was inscribed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2003. Dr. Vakankar, an active freedom fighter, was awarded a number of prestigious awards, including the Padma Shri, one of the India's highest civilian honors, in 1975. He held important positions in various academic institutions and was involved in numerous archaeological surveys. He explored the ravines of Chambal and Narmada Valley rivers and also traced the basin of the now dry Saraswati river bed, said to hold the secret of Indian civilization. He carried out archaeological excavations at various sites in India and abroad. Dr. Vakankar was also an expert and had numismatic and epigraphy collections, which are now part of the Vakankar Shodh Sansthan. Moreover, he studied numerous inscriptions dating from 2nd century BC in Sanskrit, Prakrit, and Brahmi. Dr. Vakankar published 6 books and over 400 research papers. He established the Vakankar Indological Research Tribal Research Trust in Ujjain, India. Today, Vakankar Shodh Sansthan hosts a collection of over 7,500 sketches of rock art painting made by Vakankar himself. He left for heavenly abode on 3rd April 1988. This was a brief about the Dr. Vakankar, whose centenary celebrations we are celebrating this year. Today, we have with us elite and illustrious panel of scholars comprising of Professor V. Sonawani, Dr. B.R. Mani, Dr. G.B. Daglurkar, and our visionary and dynamic member secretary, Professor Sajidanand Joshi ji. So, before starting the presentation, may I give a brief introduction to the panel of the panelists, but it is very difficult to confine their academic profiles within a short time, but I will try to be very brief and try to cover most of the things. First, Professor V. Sonawani. Professor Sonawani retired as Professor of Archaeology from the MS University of Baroda. Professor Sonawani was also the Director of Field Archaeology at University. He has 36 years of experience, during which he extensively worked on various aspects of prehistoric, protohistoric, and historic archaeology, including the discovery of more than 100 Harappan and Chalcolithic settlements and the discovery of rock art shelters in Gujarat. Professor Sonawani was also the coordinator of the UGC Special Assistance Program at the Department of Archaeology and Ancient History, MS University. He has completed a project on the investigation of rock art of Western India with specific reference to Gujarat and presently working on symbolism of rock art in India. Professor Sonawani has presented a number of papers in various national and international seminars, and almost 100 of his articles and research papers are published in national and international journals. Then Dr. B.R. Mani. Dr. B.R. Mani was the former Additional Director General of Archaeological Survey of India and former Director General of National Museum, New Delhi. A field archaeologist, numismatist, and art critic, Dr. Mani has a doctorate on life in Kushan age. He He has been also involved in the conservation of monuments in Maharashtra, Goa, Delhi, Jammu and Kashmir. He has discovered a large number of archaeological sites in these places and also some other in Uttar Pradesh and Haryana. He has directed more than 14 archaeological excavations in the country, including Lal Kot and Salimgarh, Delhi, Muhammadnagar and Narol in Haryana, and Ayodhya in Uttar Pradesh. He is a member of various national and international organizations and has traveled in Europe and Asian countries for international seminars and conferences. He has 4 books and more than 100 research papers to his credit. Then Dr. G.B. Daglurkar. Dr. G.B. Daglurkar, born on 10th September 1933, is an eminent Indian archaeologist and art historian. He held important positions in many institutions and universities during his tenure of service. He was the former president of Deccan College, Deemed University, Pune. He has done his PhD on cultural history of Marathwada with special reference to the old monument. He has published about 20 books in English and Marathi and has more than 100 articles to his credit. He has received many awards for his outstanding contribution to Indian archaeology. He has rich experience of 24 years in the field of art and culture and archaeological excavation. He has widely traveled across the world and has attended many conferences and seminars. Then our Honorable Member Secretary Professor Sachidanand Joshi, who is a visionary and dynamic member secretary, the executive and academic head of Indira Gandhi National Center for Art. Is a scholar of history and mass communication, a writer, a poet, and an actor. He was the founder, vice chancellor of Kushobai Thakre University of Journalism, Mass Communication, Raipur. He served as vice chancellor for 2 terms, that is 10 years. He was also founder, registrar of Makhanlal Chaturvedi National University of Journalism and Mass Communication, Bhopal. He served as Dean Academics in the Makhanlal Chaturvedi National University of Journalism and Communication, Bhopal too. He has written extensively on media, communication, history, culture, education policy, and other relevant issues. He has been delivering lectures on communication, gender, sanitization, research for researchers, personal development, art and culture in prestigious institutions. He has edited the speeches of Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji for publication division. He edited many other publications. He has been writing extensively. Some of his recent published works include Sachidanand Joshi Ki Lokpriya Kahaniyan 2017, Kuch Alp Viram 2018, Pal Bhar Ki Pehchan 2019. His speeches has been compiled in 2 volumes titled Mera Desh, Mera Dharm. This was a brief introduction of all the panelists. So our order of presentation will be, first I will request Professor Sachidanand Joshi ji to start with, then he will be followed by Professor Sonavani, then Dr. Mani, then Dr. Daglurkar, and then I will give my talk. Now may I request Professor Joshi to take over, please.
Thank you, Professor Malla. And at the outset, I welcome Professor G.B. Daglurkar ji, Professor Sonavani ji, Professor B.R. Mani ji, and all the participants who have gathered. I could see almost 589 already are there in this webinar. I welcome all the participants who are from different parts of Bharat and the world, and who have shown keen interest to understand about the work, the important work done by Honorable Shri Wakankar ji. And in this context, we are also going to understand the basic nuances of the rock art as a stream of knowledge, and the importance of rock art in Bharat, in India. when we see the panelist, I can see that you cannot imagine a better panel than this. So enlightened persons are there. They are all luminaries in the field of archaeology and rock art and history. So I did not find it appropriate to chair this session. I am being the youngest and the smallest entity in this whole group. I thought it is appropriate for me to welcome all the honorable speakers in this webinar, which has been organized by the Rock Art Division of Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts, and very well conceived by Professor B.L. Malla. Uh, when we conceived this webinar, we really thought of eminent persons like Deglurkarji, Sonavneji, Maniji to be there. And it is really the good fortune of us, the Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts, and all the listeners who are there in this webinar to have this kind of a panel to address on this important occasion. As we all know that we are celebrating 100 years of Vakankarji. He was born in the year 1919, and 2020 was his completion of 100 years. It would have been a great function had there been no COVID-19 pandemic. We all planned a very, very big exhibition, very big function in Delhi, in Ujjain, but unfortunately, because of this pandemic, everything has been confined to this webinar. Of course, on 4th of May, the Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts inaugurated one virtual exhibition dedicated to Vakankarji, which showed the different aspects of his life and the variety of work which he has done. This exhibition was opened last year and was made public. It traveled throughout the country. It went to different places. But there are many people who could not see the exhibition. They can see the exhibition, which is available on IGNC website and the YouTube. So most of the works which have been done by Vakankarji is being covered in that exhibition. Why this webinar is a most important question, and that we should understand and we should consider. Before that, I must also say that sometimes it is always blessing in disguise. Had there been a function in Ujjain or had there been a function in Delhi, most of us who either stay in Tamil Nadu or in Kerala or in Karnataka might not have ventured to come all the way from their places to these venues. Sometimes our physical proximity, or sometimes our availability of resources, sometimes our convenience, it does not allow us to travel that far. But being there in this webinar, we can see everybody from all parts of the country and all parts of the world are here to listen to these eminent speakers who are going to address to us in today's webinar. My objective of coming and welcoming you is also just to
I'll try.
bring it to your notice that the rock art field of study has to be acknowledged as a specialized area of study in the field of history or archaeology, and we have to really define this as a separate stream of knowledge. And more youngsters, especially the scholars who are interested to study in the field of archaeology and history, must venture into the field of rock art. As we all know, India has one of the richest collection of rock arts in the entire world, and the date goes beyond 10,000 years, which is really staggering. We must know our lineage, we must know our heritage, and we must know about our ancestors. As Vakankarji has explored the Bhimbetka caves, and it was acknowledged that they are as old as 10,000 years old. And its Bhimbetka is only a piece of what all we have in that entire Satpura Valley. I belong to Madhya Pradesh, I belong to Bhopal. I know many of them even today don't go to explore these places. There is no awareness about this among the youngsters to go and explore and find out what kind of rock arts are available in that area. So the purpose of this entire exercise is to just motivate, especially the young scholars. I am very happy to see almost 620 scholars have joined this webinar, and that is an encouraging number to see and to look at the interest which has been generated among the youngsters to see this field of knowledge, because that only proves that India is the oldest civilization in the world. Just now I have been reading for some other purposes Walt Durant's A Case for India, and he has very bluntly said that India is the motherland of all the Europeans for more than one purpose. May it be civilization, may it be language, may it be behavior, everything has been inherited from India. And still if we are not aware and still we are not alert about our heritage and lineage, things will go like this only. And as we are seeing more and more construction taking place, more and more explosions are taking place, there is a severe damage to the rock art which has to be understood. And once the thing has been blasted, thing is being blasted, we have no way but just to repent on our inactiveness. 2 years, 3 years, 3 years, 4 years back, when I took over as member secretary at the IGNCA, I realized the importance, and I requested Dr. Malla. He's a learned scholar of this field, and he's a dedicated person. And we together sort of started bringing up some kind of an mobility and some kind of a momentum in the field of rock art. We have given the name as Adi Drishya division, just to pay the homage to the unknown artists who have created this entire rock art. God knows how many years back, never cared for their name and credit, but created everything just to show us what kind of history and lineage we all have. We are also trying to build up a society or something like an organized mechanism which will take care of the rock art heritage in India, so that these things are preserved and taken care of properly. My submission to all the audience and the extremely knowledgeable panelist is that kindly guide us, kindly equip us with the best intellectual support and with the best knowledge, so that Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts takes the movement forward and makes rock art as a very serious academic stream of knowledge. With these words, I once again welcome. I know all of you are more than eager, even I am more than eager to listen to all the eminent persons who are here as honorable panelists. I welcome all the panelists and the audience, and we will keep on doing this kind of webinars in future. So do be in touch with the Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts for the future communication and future programs. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Oh, sure. Thank you, sir, for your kind words and kind guidance which we are getting from you from time to time. May now I request Professor Sonawani to give his presentation. He will be talking on rock art research in India and enduring legacy of Dr. V.S. Wakankar. Please, Sonawani, sir.
Namaskar and good evening to everybody. Friends, indeed it's a great pleasure for me to be here on this occasion, and I am extremely thankful to the authorities of the IGNCA, particularly Professor Satchidanand Joshi, Member Secretary, and Professor B.L. Malla, the Adi Drishya Department Head, and other members of the Adi Drishya Department. As Professor Malla suggested, that I am going to talk about rock art research in India and enduring legacy of Dr. Vishnu Sridhar Wakankar. Among the many things that our ancestors had left behind, nothing is more evocative and exciting than their signatures on rock. Painted and engraved walls of caverns, rock shelters, and boulders present us an avenue to walk through the archaic expression of human societies. Rock art is regarded as a purposeful modification of bare rock surface to produce preconceived forms and images. both in paintings and engravings, often called pictographs and petroglyphs. Its antiquity, ranging from Paleolithic to historic period, is an important evidence of human creation through the changes in time and space. It is a global phenomenon and found in many culturally diverse regions of the world. Rock art is the only form of fine art having such a wide distribution and longevity. The spectrum of Indian rock art is vast in terms of thematic content and stylistic forms. In magnitude, vividness, and richness, it is outstanding and in some respect unique in the world, forming an important cultural heritage. The testimony of rock art research in India began with Archibald Carlyle's discovery of rock art sites in Vindhyas in Mirzapur district of Uttar Pradesh in 1867-68, and thereafter has been deliberated primarily by British scholars like F. Fawcett, D.H. Gordon, and others. However, the Declaration of Independence in 1947 paved the way for an indigenous research tradition in the country. A grand new chapter of rock art research in India was unfolded by V.S. Wakankar, adding an entirely new dimensions to the field of rock art research, for which he truly deserves to be honored with the title as founder of modern rock art studies in India. While traveling to Nagpur from Bhopal in a train, Wakankar had noticed dissected rocks resembling archaeological monuments over a sandstone hill. This led to the discovery of Bhimbetka, the spectacular rock art site in 1957 near Bhopal in Madhya Pradesh. The site has now become synonymous with rock art in India, and in 2003 got the recognition as the World Heritage Site. Wakankar had carried not only a broad survey of painted shelters in the country, along with listing of a tentative chronology based on style, content, and superimposition, and also in archaeological context in historical perspective. With his work, he had successfully laid the foundations to an Indian homegrown research tradition of rock art studies. His sustained research brought worldwide recognition and credibility to his branch of archaeological study. Enduring legacy of V.S. Wakankar reflects in the works of host of scholars who made comprehensive contribution include V.N. Mishra, S.K. Pandey, Shankar Tiwari, Jagdish Gupta, A. Sundara, Yashodhar Matpal, Giriraj Kumar, myself, Rakesh Tiwari, R.K. Verma, K. Rajan, Sadasiva Pradhan, Somnath Chakravarti, N. Chandramouli, Ravi Korisetter, Ajit Kumar, R.C. Agrawal, B.R. Mani, S.B. Ota, K.K. Mohammed, M. Joseph, Harakitra Pradhan, Nandini Bhattacharya, Narayan Vyas, J.N. Pal, A.K. Prasad, Ajay Pratap, Murari Lal Sharma, Kanti Pawar, P. Ajit Prasad, Parth Chauhan, Prabhas Sahu, Bipen Bed Barua, R. Mohana, Rumen Banerjee, Sachin Tiwari, Meenakshi Dubey Pathak, Riza Abbas, Urmi Ghosh, Jenny Peter, and many more who are going to make their career in rock art studies, motivated and inspired by V.S. Wakankar. Among the foreign scholars, R.G. Bednarik, Erwin Neumayer, Michel Laplace, and R.R. Brooks are prominent, who have made substantial contribution to promote rock art research in India. Kapila Vatsyayan, S.C. Malik, B.N. Saraswati, K.K. Chakravarti are among the eminent rock art critics. From 1980 onwards, Indian rock art studies witnessed a major breakthrough. By this time, Indian rock art research was more or less free from the earlier Eurocentric notions and emerged as the independent, mature discipline, welcoming foreign scholars to work with Indian researchers on collaborative projects. Indian rock art is now placed in a global context, but a good number of quality publications were brought out which encourage young researchers to undertake rock art studies. Among these, a most widely read book was The Rock Art of India, edited by K.K. Chakravarti, that is, publication is 1984, was the outcome of the first ever event of its kind of celebrating a century of the discovery of Indian rock paintings. This international seminar on 100 years of the discovery of rock paintings, organized by the Department of Archaeology and Museums, Government of Madhya Pradesh at Bhopal in 1981, was basically planned to find out where a century-old effort in exploration and research of rock paintings in India had brought us. Equally important landmark in the rock art research in India was the Global Conference on Rock Art, organized by IGNCA at New Delhi in 1993. That is, volume was edited by Malla and myself, published in 2013. It was as per the conceptual plan of their Adi Drishya program, of which rock art forms its crucial component. In this context, mention needs to be made of K.K. Chakravarti's and R.G. Bednarik's volume, that is Indian Rock Art in its Global Context, published in 1997, where the authors have not only described the latest state of research on rock art in India, but also transformed rock art studies into the realm of interdisciplinary intercultural analysis. It emphasized the status of Indian rock art in the global perspective. The first Congress of Australian Rock Art Research Association, properly known as AURA, held at Darwin in Australia in 1988, was probably the first exposure to the Indian scholars to participate in an international gathering of rock art specialists. It provides an excellent platform to create awareness of Indian rock art among the rock art experts assembled there from all over the world. The active participation of S.K. Pandey, Yashodhar Mathpal, V.H. Sonone and myself, Rakesh Tiwari, Giriraj Kumar, G.S. Tyagi and Sudha Malaya in this international gathering help us to know where we stand in the global context and what efforts needs to be done for future planning of our vast rock art heritage. In fact, highly impressed with the discovery I have made from Chandravati and realizing its importance in the rock art studies, Wakankar suggested me to present a paper in Darwin Conference. Robert Bednarik, who organized this event, raised funds to invite a delegation from India to be headed by Wakankar and expected he could play a key role in it. Unfortunately, Wakankar's health deteriorated while traveling in Singapore and suddenly succumbed to a heart attack on 3rd April 1988. A cruel twist robbed him of the satisfaction of witnessing the success of what he had set in motion over a period of decades. The volume edited by Michel Oblase, that is Rock Art in the Old World, published by IGNCA in 1992, is the testimony of the work carried out by the Indian researchers in the field of rock art. On 2nd December 1999, Indian Rock Art Research Association, known as IRA, was formed at Shantiniketan in West Bengal. The proposal to form a society was mooted by S.K. Pandey, a friend and colleague of Dr. V.S. Wakankar, to promote the cause of Indian rock art studies. Unfortunately, the foundation of this first society could not establish on a firm footing. Therefore, soon after, a lead was taken by Giriraj Kumar, a student and associate of V.S. Wakankar, to form the second organization named Rock Art Society of India, that is RASI. It was officially formed on 24 February in 1990 at Agra. The new organization has a firm commitment to continue the task left by Wakankar to work closely with the many authorities having common interest in the discipline of rock art studies. Regular conferences and seminars are conducted by RASI members on different issues of ongoing rock art research. In 2004, RASI had organized an International Rock Art Congress at Agra. One of the most notable developments apparent at this event was development in the Indian presentations over the previous decades. Purakala, Journal of RASI, published regularly since 1990. It is devoted solely to rock art research and has been able to bring out 29 volumes so far. Since rock paintings are among the earliest manifestations of the human creative expression recorded in India, it is one of the concern agenda of the Archaeological Survey of India. The rigorous effort on academic and administrative levels have resulted in encouraging conservation and preservation out of our oldest heritage. One of the major contributions of the ASI for the promotion of rock art research is that it has played a major role in getting Bhimbetkar to be inscribed on the World Heritage List. Virtually, this largest repository of prehistoric art in India was declared as a World Heritage Site on 3rd July 2003 under the UNESCO sponsorship. Under the publication of World Heritage Site, to mark this event, a guidebook was brought out by the ASI highlighting specific features of the site which made it worth to get the World Heritage status. The guidebook was written by Dr. S.B. Ota and published in 2008. Indira Gandhi Center for the Arts, IGNCA, where we have this webinar now, has launched series of nationwide action-oriented steps to support rock art research under its Adi Drishya department. Of these, the most unique is the preparation of inventory of rock art sites spread in different zones of the country. It also supports individual researchers and commissioned several regional studies. IGNCA is also equally very much concerned about conservation, preservation, and management of rock art. On these issues, expert meeting was organized in Delhi in 1996 to receive their constructive suggestions. The publication of Conservation of Rock Art is an eloquent testimony of the seriousness of the issue that was published by Dr. Malla in 1999. International Conference on Rock Art 2012, organized in December 2012 at New Delhi, was primarily the outcome of its wider vision. It was a serious attempt to bring together Indian as well as leading scholars from all over the world to exchange observations from their particular field of research. The conference was attended by 18 international participants. Discussions and debates on the whole appear to be quite productive from Indian point of view to plan for future. A catalogue published on this occasion of the exhibition on the Indian and global rock art, edited by S.S. Biswas, provides a brief overview of the exhibition displayed both in Martighar as well as the Twin Art Gallery of IGNCA. The publication of volume on the world of rock art, an overview of the five continents, edited by B.L. Malla, subsequent to the conference, is based on the special lecture series organized by the host organization. The volume provides an in-depth information and analysis of the themes which are incorporated while keeping in view the future development of the academic programs. It's published by B.L. Malla in 2013, immediately after the conference. As part of Rock Art project, IGNCA has organized an important workshop on the suitable dating technique for Indian rock art at Delhi in February 2014 to find out major problems and look for possible solutions of one of the critical issues of Indian rock art. Indira Gandhi Rashtriya Manav Sangrahalaya, set up at Bhopal, being an anthropological museum, is carry programs of documentations, preservations, and popularization of rock art. It is also engaged in building up of an archives of rock art and has taken initiative towards the national inventory with the cooperation of group of experts from university departments and institutions. The unique volume jointly written by K.K. Chakravarti and Bednarik, published on behalf of IGNCA during the most active regime of K.K. Chakravarti as its director. Likewise, one of the major objectives of which the Indian Council of Historical Research was established by the Government of India is promotion of historical research in the country. Therefore, along with other research-oriented programs, ICHR has developed a special drive to encourage rock art research by providing research grants to individual scholars under junior and senior research fellowships, besides postdoctoral and national research fellowships. A casual surfing of research fellowships awarded to scholars under various funding schemes will reveal that quite a good number of scholars, researchers are working on multiple issues related to Indian rock art. ICHR not only gives liberal grants for organizing seminars, conferences, and workshops, but also conduct symposiums on various themes. In this context, the international seminar conducted by ICHR in November 2006 at Bhopal on the rock art of India and France was most stimulating. Efforts are also being made to introduce a multidisciplinary approach in tackling specific issues. The inception of the early Indian petroglyphs, that is EIP project, ventured jointly by IAS, that is Indian Archaeological Society, IGNCA, Aura, and RASI, studied Dharki Chattan, a rock art site near Bhanpura in Mandsaur district of Madhya Pradesh. The investigation was pursued as a trial for newly conceived dating method to prove the theories of Robert Bednarik, who locates the Paleolithic beginning of rock art in cup marks and other rock engravings. Beginning with the pioneering efforts of Wakankar, rock art studies in India has emerged into a multidisciplinary branch of archaeology. Rock art research has laid emphasis on documentation, painting techniques, dating, pigment analysis, besides ecology. A series of monographs and edited volumes, besides that of journals like Purakala, Prachya Pratibha, Man and Environment, Antiquity, Pragdhara, Puratattva, have incorporated new discoveries related to the rock art as well as changing emphasis in the study of rock art of India. The post-Wakankar phase has brought out comprehensive publications. Of these, Rock Art in Kuman, Himalaya, published in 1995, and Rock Art in Kerala, published in 1998 by Yashodhar Mathpal, Rock Art of Andhra Pradesh, a new synthesis, published in 2013 by N. Chandramouli, Silent Rocks, an eloquent testimony of rock art heritage of Odisha, published in 2017 by Sadasiva Pradhan, Rock Art Heritage of Northeast India, published in 2019, edited by B.L. Malla and Tilok Thakaria, Cultural Ecology, Prehistoric and Anthropological Context of Indian Rock Art, with emphasis on northeastern states, published in 2017, edited by B.L. Malla and Bipen Bej Barua, Rock Art Studies, Interpretations through Multidisciplinary Approaches, published in 2014, edited by B.L. Malla, to mention few, as part of publication of IGNCA Rock Art series. Besides this, Rock Art of the S Belt in Central India, published in 2011 by Pushpa Tiwari and O.P. Mishra, Prehistoric Rock of India, published in 2013 by Erwin Neumayer, Rock Art of the Vindhyas, and Archaeological Survey by Ajay Pratap, published in 2016, Powerful Images, Chhattisgarh Rock Art and Tribal Art, published in 2017 by Meenakshi Dubey Pathak and Jean Claude, and Early Rock Art and Tribal Art in India, an anthropological perspective, published in 2018 by Somnath Chakravarti, are some of the publications throwing light on the interpretative analysis of known Indian rock art. The story of Wakankar's legacy is not complete with these most recent developments. It is, in fact, as Bednarik said, not a story with an ending, but an ongoing process. If Wakankar had not spontaneously decided in 1957 to leave his train in Barkheda, following an intuition, this would have not been there would have been a very different story. Many of the crucial components of the development occurred long after he left us. It is through his work that he still continues to shape the destiny of rock art research, its dynamics and progress. It is important to understand the ongoing process to which all of us, in some measure, contribute. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Sonavani, for your informative talk and also for acknowledging the role played by the IGNC in rock art studies in India. Thank you very much. May I request Dr. B.R. Mani to start his presentation. He will be talking on rhythmic and balancing figures in rock art of Central India, a tribute to Dr. V.S. Wakar. Dr. Mani, please start.
Good evening to all the participants and viewers. Dr. Professor Sonavani had given a very exhaustive outline of studies. My tribute to Dr. V.S. Varkonkar is in the form of a thematic study, and the topic is rhythmic and balancing figures in rock art of Central India. Rock art studies of Central India owe its worldwide recognition due to Dr. Vishnu Sridhar Vakankar, who had been one of the greatest explorers of India, whose whole life was dedicated towards discovering the cultural heritage of the country in his investigations of pre and proto historic studies, rock art sites, dried riverbed of Saraswati, and archaeological sites on its banks, excavations of sites of Central Indian Chalcolithic cultures like Kayatha, and in course of uh, these archaeological explorations, discovering a large number of inscriptions, sculptures, and other archaeological material. His great achievement is known throughout the world about the discovery of Bhimbetka rock shelters and paintings in 1957, followed by hundreds of other rock art sites, mostly in central India. I had the proud privilege of interacting with him during the annual conference of the Numismatic Society of India in its Ujjain session in 1978-79, when at the Ujjain University's museum, he showed me several stone inscriptions discovered by him and discussed about their paleography, epigraphy, and historical value. On 4th May this year, uh, we celebrated his 101st birthday, and I pay my homage today to his memories. His discovered rock art have been variously discussed by many scholars, including his close associate Yashodhar Matpal. I take the opportunity today to discuss about a less discussed aspect in rock art on the artist's psychological feelings while making rock paintings with special reference to Bhimbetka. It gives us pleasure that Adi Drishya department or rock art department of the Indira Gandhi National Center of Art has been taking special interest in rock art studies, for which it has created a dedicated unit to promote the subject and has also organized several seminars, including international ones, and has published significant material on the subject, some of which were mentioned by the previous speaker, Professor Sonamne. Indian prehistoric rock art reached its climax and culminated into great artistic traditions of the country in the historical period, which becomes clearer after study of theoretical and cognitive aspects of rock art tradition. During the last 150 years of archaeological investigations in the field of rock art in India, since the discovery of Sohagi Ghat site in 1867-68 by Archibald Carlyle, more than 1100 rock shelters containing paintings have been discovered in India at more than 150 sites. These painted rock shelters and caves provided habitat to the prehistoric man who, in his leisure hours, either satisfied after having sumptuous meals and play, or in his agony, fear, and hunger, diverted his mind towards creating rock pictures of the haunting images which express his feelings, reactions, and the conditions in which the work was produced. Thus, on the one hand, where rejoicing, recreations, and emotional attachment and cooperation of groups are depicted in the paintings, on the other, the viewer gets repelled by seeing terror, cruelty, and a pathetic acceptance of the unknown behind some of the forms. It is quite evident from the paintings that the earliest of them may belong to the Upper Paleolithic or Mesolithic age, but the subject matters of many of them and different superimpositions suggest that the shelters were occupied till a very late date in the historical age, when the occupants, who were in most of the cases encouraged by the pictorial art of their shelters, uh, attempted to utilize their artistic skills on the existing paintings, overlapping them or creating new scenes in the nearby area. Maximum layers of such superimposed paintings are 15 in number, noticed at Bhimbetka. Using pointed stick and pounded end, soft fibrous twigs, the artists utilized uh, hematite and many other mineral colors for paintings, which they could get from the rocks nearby. The painting materials might have been various in different areas as per the flora and fauna and availability of mineral colors. Many of the rock paintings are comparable to the prehistoric rock paintings in Europe, Africa, Australia, and other parts of the world, and a strong need is felt for the detailed study and contextual analysis of the structure and form of the paintings, material used in their creation, and associated finds of the rock shelters instead of superficial listing of similarities and differences with their counterparts elsewhere. Continuous painting habit, close observations of contemporary artwork, and fantastic imaginative reflections of forms and figures gave way to the creations of such paintings which are not realistic but purely artistic. The figure of a giant human pair in motion, painted on the main rock shelter of Singhanpur, is an example of such imagination and rhythmic symmetry. One of the best examples of such fanciful creation is the painting in Rock Shelter 7 of Jambudweep at Panchmadi, in which rear parts of the bodies of two tigers are joined in such a manner that the hind legs of both of them have become common. Not only this, but the legs of the figure of a human being standing in between the tails of the tigers are the common hind legs of the tigers. The overall impact of the figure is well balanced and symmetrically much artistic. The painter could have easily made a common tail for the two tigers, but he has purposely designed separate curved tails to give the perfect symmetry and balance to the painting. Such artistic skills reached its climax at Ajanta, where four deer with a common head and such other figures and paintings exist. This is the great tradition of our country. Two more paintings from Pachmadi, one identified as that of Gilgamesh and the other a demon figure, represent artistic symmetry. The equilibrated human figures fighting with bows and arrows at Imlikho in Panchmadi give the idea of artists' perception of creating balancing figures of warriors, their bows, and even six fallen arrows at the two ends. The artistic concept of symmetry was perceived with a great skill by the painter of the fighting scene of two horse riders in Mirzapur at Kawako Rock Shelter. Side views of the horse riders facing each other show one of them holding the lifted sword like weapon in his right hand, while the other holds similar lifted weapon in his left hand. The weapons are lifted backwards, while in a real fight, the position of the weapon held by the left hander should be lifted towards forward for backhand assault on the right handed enemy. The changed position of weapons balance the artistic depiction of the figures in the painting. Two chalcolithic rock paintings at Chaturbhujnath Nala contain the artistic spirit of the painter in delineating the symmetry in the paintings of chariots. The warriors, with their uplifted weapons at the ends, two wheels of chariots, and two animals of the chariot, all in a row, in a perfectly balanced manner, increase the artistic beauty of the scenes. The concept of depiction of moving body resulting into changes in the relative productions of its parts can be seen in many paintings, where the artist views his subject foreshortened by perspective and which leaves a deep impact on the viewer of artist's work. One of the best examples of it can be seen in a painting of light red color in the rock shelter 18A of the group 3rd C at Bhimbetka, which depicts four different subjects related to hunting scenes. One of it has an archer with a large double segmented bow and barbed arrow, probably having microliths. The archer is chasing a buffalo that is shown in a pensive mood but running as his legs are in movement and the tail is horizontally lifted. The dots below probably represent the boulders of the uneven surface. The buffalo seems to be wounded as a stick like object is pierced in his tummy, which is seemingly the arrow, shot by the archer having upright hairs and body in motion. The side view of the horns of the buffalo is too realistic because the left portion is seen in full and the half of the right portion is hidden behind the head of the buffalo. Thus, the left portion is shaped like elongated S and the right portion like a simple hook. There are many horned animals, for example, at least 88 buffaloes, 70 oxen, and 66 cows, and others in the paintings of Bhimbetka. And such change in relative proportions of horns are seldom to be noticed. Glimpses of similar perspective figures can be seen in the changed proportions of ears of the famous boar in the group 3rd A, shelter 21, and the horns of swamp deer in group C, shelter 50 of Bhimbetka, and legs of the bull at Chenga Pahad in Odisha. These undoubtedly suggest how deep the observations of the painters were. The rock engravings in Ladakh also depict ibexes and other animals in similar balancing movements. To bring the paintings towards more realistic forms, The above figures, uh, the above feature brought them nearer to the three-dimensional effects. The feature is also to be noticed in the painting of the Venus of Bhimbetka in group 2nd F in the rock shelter 8, in which stylized form is given to the breast of the lady who is depicted in motion. Depth of the full subject can be seen in some of the Indian rock paintings where figures of human beings or animals have been shown in such a manner that the nearer figures are larger than those which are either following it or moving in groups. Examples are uh, human figures depicted below the scene of buffalo hunt in Rock Shelter 21 of the group 3rd A at Bhimbetka, three deer in a scene at Auditorium Rock, that is number 24 of group 3rd at Bhimbetka, and hunting scenes at Kawako in Mirzapur. In many cases, blunt, linear, and angular features are represented in rock paintings, but while studying them, proper care has to be given to understand about the difficult access of the painter to the rock's surface, formation of the rock material for painting, space, and mood of the artist. The horizontally linear perspective of the painting at Mukhadari in Mirzapur can be understood in its peculiar treatment is studied in view of the horizontal layers of the rock formation. Human and animal portrayals are not only static and rigid, but they are mostly depicted as little and full of movement, whereas static figures are represented in paintings like those at Rock Shelter 24 of Group 3rd F or 38 of Group 3rd C at Bhimbetka. The vigorous movements can be seen in the paintings at Rock Shelter 21, 38, and 48 of Group 3rd C. There and at many other places. The artists were definitely skillful enough in giving tangible expression to the aesthetic sense of rhythm and harmony to the depiction of visual imagery. Artists' expressions of great joy on their success in hunting or after fulfilling their wishes are depicted in a number of varied scenes in most of the rock paintings, suggesting the spontaneous manifestation of pleasure and merrymaking of social groups. A very large number of dance scenes are available on Indian rocks in paintings and in petroglyphs in the most rhythmic style with various postures. An important scene of such type is depicted in a Mesolithic painting at Karwai, in which dancing couples are shown in different postures of dance with stylistic movements of their body, hands, and legs, which gives impression of the free enjoyment of the group. Most of the dance scenes contain figures of dancers with hand in hand forming a human chain. Such portrayals are suggestive of a disciplined art of dance in which people are bound to restrict their bodily movements in a particular direction and style at the beat and rhythm. Dancers in elaborate outfit depicted in the Mesolithic painting at Kathotia are one of the best examples of it. Rhythmic movements of dancers can be seen in the earliest style of Mesolithic art in a painting at Lakhajuar. Dancers in a row in the Hathwani rock shelter of Mirzapur are represented with uplifted hands and parallel forward movements of legs in jumping style on the beat of the music in a most nimble and rhythmic manner. Apart from performing arts, rhythmic movements are also to be noticed in the hunting scenes, where hunters are shown taking quick action at the nick of the time with full harmony due to question of their life and death. The hunting scene of Mesolithic age at Cappadocia, in which the ferocious hunters corner a carnivore to kill it with spears and tipped arrows, is a good example of it, in which all the six hunters are attacking the animal simultaneously from different sides with full attention towards their best possible positions and vigorous postures, synchronizing effectively in attaining their common aim. It was because of the coordinated efforts of the primitive groups in hunting or rejoicing, due to which a social order started developing with mutual understanding and helpful attitude amongst the members. Their joint ventures are represented in hundreds of rock paintings and engravings, including those in which they are shown to be taking positions for hunting, marching in rows, or running in groups. These are the representatives of the disciplined, rhythmic, and harmonious movements of the prehistoric man. The particular style of group dance, in which dancers form a chain with interlocked arms and which is still popular amongst folks and tribes, is represented in a painting at Group 3rd C Rock Shelter 48 at Bhimbetka, in which the dancers can be seen in three groups of 8, 4, and 2, with a drummer holding a drum with splayed ends. The dancing mode requires a disciplined and synchronizing movement of rhythmic action on the beat of the drum. Similar human chain of dancers are also found at different sites in rock paintings as well as in petroglyphs. The authors of early rock art were undoubtedly creative artists, as their works are not subject to conventional demands of visual communication, but which have freedom of self-expression. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your analytical and exhaustive talk. It was a very nice talk. And also, would like to thank for acknowledging IGNC's role. May I request Dr. G.B. Daglurkarji to give his presentation on Dr. Wakankar's place in Indological studies. Dr. Daglurkarji, welcome. I think your mic is mute. You unmute your mic, please. Hello?
Okay. Okay.
Yes, yes. It is audible.
Thank you, Dr. Mallaji and friends. Many things have already been told about rock art and its relations with Dr. Vishnu Sridhar Wakankar, popularly known as Haribhav. Very informative talk has been given by my friend Dr. Sonawane, and very analytical approach to the art of Bhimbetka as well as of rock art has been done by Dr. Mani very successfully and very interestingly. Now, when I think of Dr. Wakankar, I think I should open a golden page of Indological studies written by Dr. V.S. Wakankar. born in 1919, and then onward after his school education, college education, etc. He became an artist. He learned drawing and other things with his guru, Sri Phadke of Devas. And then he engaged himself in research work afterwards. He was multifaceted character. He worked in rock art. He excavated many sites. I'll come to that later on. His discovery of Saraswati is a model of a work which is to be taken right from the beginning and ended successfully at last. More than that, he also has worked as a social worker. Whatever he did, it was for the service of his motherland. Twadiyaya karyaya baddha katiyam was his motto. And for what? He served his motherland with various researches. Patat for enchanting, enhancing the glory of his motherland. And because of that, Haribhav, with his simple living and great researches, he is known to all, not only Indians, but foreigners also who loved Indian culture and civilization. Haribhav's gift to Indian heritage is commendable. As you know, our heritage, okay, it's very precious, very rich, amazing, motivating, inspiring. But above that, it is unparalleled. See what happened with the culture of Egypt, civilization of Egypt. Because of the first wave of invasion in the early centuries of Christian era, the culture that was in vogue in the period of pyramids, sphinx, mummies was destroyed and disturbed. And in the second wave of invaders, in the beginning of medieval period, medieval history, that culture was totally destroyed. So the people who would have been proud of Egyptian heritage, they are not there. At the present, the people living in Egypt, they are not the persons who can boast of the creation of pyramids and other things. But in India, the case is quite different. We, the Indians, have started working on various aspects of our culture and civilization. And that culture is continued up to this day. Haribhav was a person who created landmark in the continuation of this culture. When I think of Haribhav, I always thought that Haribhav's place, he has carved out his own place in Indian Indology. I'm sorry, it is doubly I stated, it is Indology. He carved out his own place because of untiring work of research, because of his faith in the glory of our country, because of his stamina, because of his determination that whatever he undertakes, his aim, rock art or Saraswati research. It is not that other people have tried. In fact, Kincaid in 1884 or so, he had spotted at Bhimbetka there are some was not undertaken by anybody. Later on, it was left for Haribhav, we can say, and he traveled alone at the beginning when he detrained going from Bhopal to Nagpur. He smelled something. He was in a way very unique person in that sense. He knew where to do search, what to get from that place. He could smell that, and while traveling from in train, he some 10 to 20, 15 kilometers alone with anxiety only, with in a way in darkness. He did not know what he was to get. But when he reached there at the rock and found that, oh, those rocks are painted, then he started going there every weekend, Saturday, Sunday. At the beginning, he was alone. He was doing that work sincerely there. Being an artist himself, he tried to sketch down as many as possible sketches of the paintings. There are 600 rock shelters. Out of that, 425 rock shelters contain paintings. Dr. Mani has already described the beauty of this, so I do not want to go into that details. But what I mean is, this is very tremendous job that Wakankar did. He spent 15 years to complete that work. And then under Dr. Sankalia of Deccan College, he did his PhD on these rock art. Later on, he became famous as the man who could know things related to rock art everywhere in India and outside India. He had been invited in France, in American states, etc., for discussions, for delivering talks, and more than that, he discovered some rock paintings there also in foreign land. So this was the tremendous job that Wakankar did. But more than that, I would like to tell you, if somebody has referred to that, he was awarded Padma Shri because of his discovery of rock art at Bhimbetka. And more than that, UNESCO has to give the status of World Heritage Site to Bhimbetka. I don't know any other site of belonging to World Heritage status which has been discovered by one person. This is the only site, I think, that because of the work of a person, singular-handedly done, rock art, Bhimbetka, has been declared as the World Heritage Site. Credit must be given to Wakankar without any hesitation for this. And then his discovery of Saraswati River. Saraswati River was known to us. Every Indian knew it and was knowing it. I wonder really. Every day while taking bath, people of my generation and next to me, 2 or 3 generations, they chant the shloka, the hymn, while taking bath. Gange cha Yamune chaiva Godavari Saraswati Narmade Sindhu Kaveri Jalesmin Sannidham Kurum. But for last 1,000 years, I may say so. Last 1,000.
Hello.
Rivers were so full of apathy, I may say. It was Haribhav who undertook this job. It is not that Saraswati was not known to earlier people, scholars. Right in 1844, Mackensen, who was who knew Sanskrit also, he wanted to go to River Gaggar, which is at the foot of Himalayas, and near Adibadri. He wanted to have a short way to go there, short route. And he saw a barren channel of a Saraswati, of a river, which is 7 to 8 kilometers in width. Then he noted that this might have been the channel of river Saraswati, which is recorded. But I tell you, and then this work was going on haphazardly. In last century, I know in the 20th century, some scholars I could know, I don't want to name them, they say that there is no mention of Saraswati at all in Rig Veda and any other Vedas. So the ignorance of we people, I think, I suspect the difference. Dirubitame, Divitame, Saraswati. It is clearly mentioned that, oh,
Hello.
now nobody had taken seriously about the existence of this thing. And it was Mr. N.N. Godbole, I come to the late part of that, he of Banaras Hindu University, he tried to survey Saraswati, the right channel of Saraswati, of course, and he recorded some of his findings. But when Haribhav took it, he was inspired by, we may say, by Moropant Pingle. Not a single, no other institution like of government agencies, I mean, had given any monetary help to. Neither it was asked also. It was purely on the basis of the social help, assistance, the campaign was undertaken. He did not call it as exploration like archaeologists say. He did not call it campaign like researcher would have said. He called it pilgrimage, Odyssey, pilgrimage to river Saraswati. And so it was a mission that he undertook. And with the faith, he carried it on. He took 40 days to travel 4,000 kilometers. He was, along with his friend scientist, geographer was there, geomorphologist was there, environmentalist was there, scientists were there. And not only these people, he consulted also the satellite photograph of river Saraswati's bed. He also consulted scientists like Kasturi Rangam, scientists like from Baba Anu Research, Nuclear Research Center. And with the help of scientific guidance, he undertook this campaign. And I tell you, it was going through like a relay race. At the village in the night, they used to stop. And the group there was to make some arrangement of their food, staying, diesel, etc. And then in next day, that group was taken by the person from this village, probably the Sangha Swayamsevak, to the other halt, and throughout day they were to do research as far as this channel was concerned. Once upon a time, villager inquired with him as to why you are getting so much trouble to go to the end of this channel. Think, Pratik. And that villager informed, see how folklores are continue traditions. The villager said,
Hello. 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 There is some, I think, problem with the connection with Professor Dagulurkar. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Dagulurkar ji, are you audible? Hello, Dagulurkar ji. Hello.
Sir, good evening, sir.
There is some
Sir, please call him and tell him to reconnect.
उसको रिकनेक्ट के लिए बोलो. Tell him to reconnect. Yes, we are communicating.
Okay, sir.
Hello. Hello. In the meantime, let me take the opportunity to make some announcement. So all the participants, I request they should put their query in the question and answer box. We will send them reply through mail. We will forward your queries to the concerned scholars, and then after getting reply, we will respond to you. And also, we will be issuing the participation certificates to all those who have attended the session in total, in complete. So these are some announcements I want to make. So we are trying to connect with Professor Dagulurkar. So maybe we will be We will be having success in getting that. Hello? Yes. Hello, sir. Hello? Priyanshi, please check. Hello?
Yes, sir. He is trying to connect. Yes, sir. He's back.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Deglorkar sir, please go ahead.
It is much better.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead. We can see you. Hello?
It's a yes by Dr. Wakankar.
Yes, please
Hello?
go ahead. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. And after 40 days of travel, he reached the end of this channel at Prabhaspatam. Now see, from Gagra at the foot of Himalayas to this place, Prabhaspatam, 2,000 kilometers is the distance, and this was covered by Dr. Wakankar and discovered the Ma Saraswati, that she was flowing underground. At some places like Pushkar, Rani Ka Vav in Gujarat, at Haryana, Kapal Moksha Tirtha, at Kurukshetra, and at so many other Bhakra Nangal. All these places are connected with the channel of Saraswati. Now, I would like to bring one other point related to this discovery of Saraswati.
How rock art is connected with Indus Valley.
Deglorkar ji, there is some problem again. Hello?
When we do not have, yes, Baba.
Please go ahead.
So, we have the archaeology.
Hello? Hello?
Related to, yeah,
Please go ahead.
not, they have located some 2,000 sites. Dr. Wakankar is known for excavations at various places at Dangwada, Maheshwar, Kaitha, Nauda Toli, and so many other places. And what is important is he found some sacrificial pit. That is the indication of the Arya civilization. At Yajnashala he got, and so many other things he could prove. And then another thing of Wakankar is the establishment of museum of various beautiful images in the University of Vikram at Ujjain. So what I mean is, because of his varied researches in the field of rock art, in the field of water management, in the field of excavations and establishment of museums, etc. I think his contribution to Indology is uncomparable in a way. And that is why I say that his position, his place in Indology, we must accept, and we must pay tribute for this thing to Dr. Wakankar on the occasion of the celebration of his birth centenary. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Sorry for the disruption in between due to some connectivity. Anyway, you were able to conclude it. Thank you very much, sir. You are always an inspiration. So, before I start my talk, on, in fact, it is just a profile of our department and just activities what we are undertaking here in the IGNC. So I will not read all the slides. I will go in between the slides. So before that, I would like to make an announcement that for all those participants who will be staying for the full session, they can be given participation certificate. They may send their request to the mail ID msignca@yahoo.com with copy to rockart rockart at igNCA.nic.in. You can get these IDs from our website contact list also. So now I'll be talking about our Adi Drishi department. The Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts has designed a major academic program focusing on the exploration of the artistic manifestation emanating from primary sense perception. The IGNC is concerned with the prehistoric rock art is restricted neither to the archaeologist and the prehistorian concerned with establishing a linear order or prehistoric art, nor is limited to the identification of a style and a school as criteria for established chronology. Briefly, the goal to be set is not merely the development of database and a multimedia gallery or displays, but to establish Adi-Drish into a school of thought and research and alternate means of understanding prehistoric art. For achieving all the goals, inventarization and interpretive research of rock art is going on hand to hand. Here I must say that IGNC is perhaps the only organization in India that has a separate department working solely on primeval man vision. The new initiative was introduced to broaden and the region and scope of various art forms and traditions that have been in place in practice over ages. The new department was conceived to pay special attention to a new kind of interdisciplinary research involving allied disciplines like anthropology, geology, art history, etc., which can open a new horizon for the prehistoric art. So, aim of the department is documenting rock art sites, its environment and communities living around these sites, discussing the extant theories of rock art and the intrinsic value of paleo art as the cultural heritage of humanity and not merely the cultural property of a particular nation where it is found. Examining concrete cases for conservation, preservation, and management of rock art caves and shelters. Identifying the common conservation hazards and intervention practices. Evolving strategies of rock art site management, conservation, and computerized documentation. Enriching children, common people, and serious scholars. Agenda of the department is to make textual, contextual video and photo documentation, to communicate with the people in the hinterland for archaeological research, and to build up a biocultural map, a mental map, and ecological atlas of the rock art landscape on the basis of documentation of related folklore and natural man-made features, to make inventory of rock art sites, to make suggestions for structural, ecological, and in rare cases, direct conservation, preferably using local material and techniques, to develop a digital archive of videos, photo, and other electronic data, to make documentaries on the basis of video documentation, to organize exhibitions, permanent, mobile, and temporary, to bring about publications, both print and electronic media, and to prepare a conservation manual for rock art sites. Main components of the project are national projects on rock art, international collaborative projects, organization of conferences, seminars, and lectures, acquisition, catalog, outreach and public awareness programs, and exhibitions. So, research and documentation. Under this program, IGNC has initiated field documentation at a national level for preserving the rock art sites, which is otherwise open to human vandalism and natural factors beyond one's control. While recognizing the importance of rock art for present generation and posterity, the phase-wise field documentation has been planned in different states of India with rock art concentration. The field documentation is being done in collaboration with local subject experts and institutions of areas zones concerned. The data is being collected in a uniform format in the national level. A huge data has been compiled in this process. So far, IGNC has initiated field studies in different phases in 16 states with rock art concentration. So we have divided the zones in 5 zones: east, west, north, and central, and documentation is being done accordingly. So far, IGNC has almost documented 300 rock art sites. So this is some illustration of Kerala and Chhattisgarh. You will find in Odisha, in J&K. In J&K, you will find Dr. K.K. Chakravarti also in Ladakh with us in the field. So, along with the rock art sites, what we are doing, we are studying the communities around these sites also. So, we are doing the ethnographic study also and try to decipher the rock art in the proper context. So, we are holding also national, international conferences workshops. So far, we have organized 3 international conferences, 11 national and regional seminars, and also the orientation children workshops, awareness programs, etc. So, international conference which was well received and well productive, which Professor Sonawaniji was also saying, which it is a proceeding has come out already in 2 volumes. So, in 2012, we did a Helen International Forum Yanchen also exhibition. We did a exhibition 2014 in Helen, China. It was for display for about 1 year there. In this inauguration, 4 Indian scholars also participated and have their presentation. So in 2016, as to reciprocate our visit to that place, we also organized the Indo-China rock art exhibition, some workshop here, in which around more than 2 dozen China rock art researchers also participated. So we did also, I was telling you, around 11 seminars, national seminars. One was held in collaboration with IGRMS at Bhopal, another was at Delhi, another was at Imphal, which was held with IGNTU Regional Center Imphal. Then in Kerala with Mujri Project 1 conference was held recently. In workshops, we held the workshops of different types. It is for the scholars, it is for the interdisciplinary team members, it is for the administration, it is for the school children, it is for the college children. These are few illustrations from Assam, Rajasthan and Delhi. And similarly, in Spiti, we did a children workshop in a school also, where all the panchayat heads were also called to make them aware about the significance of rock art of that area. Similarly, in Sonabhadra, we did a workshop for the administration and panchayat members of that area. And in Nagpur University, we signed a MOU with the Nagpur University, which was signed by our member secretary, in presence of member secretary. In fact, in all the 16 states where rock art documentation has been initiated with different institutions, an MOU has been signed with all those institutions, and the phase-wise documentation is being done. So we have also initiated in 2017 this Wakankar Memorial Lecture Series. First lecture was given by Professor B.G. Deglurkar, second by Dr. Matpal, and third by Professor Jamkhedkar. So you can see the glimpses of all these memorial lectures. In first, you can see Dr. Mani was the chairperson. In second, Narayan Vyasji was the chairperson. And third, Dr. Rakesh Tiwari ji was the chairperson. You can see our Honorable President Rai Sahab and our Member Secretary also there. The fourth memorial lecture was to be held on 3rd of April this year, but due to COVID-19, it has been postponed and most probably we will be doing it online next month. Then special lectures. We organize the special lectures at national and international level also. So far, 42 lectures have been, special lectures have been organized by IGNC in different parts of India. So about the exhibition, we have organized so far four international exhibitions, temporary exhibitions. We have organized around 4 to 5 temporary exhibitions, and in 17 states we have organized around 20 mobile exhibitions. A temporary exhibition was held in 2018 also, along with that memorial lecture given by Dr. Matpal, that was inaugurated by Dagdur Kalvi. Then you can see the mobile exhibition. I was telling you for about two dozen states we have organized it in 17 states. So mobile exhibition in Kerala, Gujarat, Uttarakhand, Rajasthan, Bihar. So IGNC publication. IGNC have so far brought out 19 publications and 5 are in the queue. These are mainly based on the field documentation report, international and national proceedings. We have also brought out 2 memorial lectures also and 9 brochures on national and international seminars. So this is a glimpse of our publication. So video documentation. We have so far done video documentation and documentaries on Rock Art of Jharkhand, Rock Art of Jammu and Kashmir, Pan Indian Rock Art, a rock documentary on Padma Shri Dr. Wakankar is in making and will be released this year. We have also recorded the interviews of leading scholars of the rock art, Professor Bednary from Australia, Professor Anati from Italy, and Dr. Matpal from India. So our future initiatives, what we are planning and what we are going to do. Rock art appreciation and certificate course we are planning. FAQ on rock art we are developing. Digital map of Indian rock art sites is being developed. Awareness programs on online and offline are being made. Booklet on rock art for school children is being worked out. Rock art e-magazine and newsletter is in our planning. Rock art e-book for children, college students, researchers is also in making. Animated filming on rock art is also in our planning. Virtual rock art gallery or exhibition, which we have already initiated the process. Rock art interpretation centers are also planned in different parts of India to make aware more and more people about this thing. And rock art blog and rock art archive. So this year, as you are aware from last year, 4th of May, we are celebrating the centenary celebrations of Dr. V.S. Wakankar. In this process, IGNC organized a brainstorming session on 3rd April 2019, in which leading scholars throughout the India participated and tried and worked out the action plan for the celebration. First, we started with a national seminar on rock art research in May 2019, which was held from 2nd to 4th May. Then we also organized a exhibition, The Legacy of Dr. Vishnu Sridhar Wakankar from 22nd to 30th May 2019 in IGNC, and this was taken as a mobile exhibition to Lucknow in September 2019. Centenary celebration of here you can see exhibition The Legacy of Wakankar in Delhi and in Lucknow. Centenary celebration. Again, under this program, we did an artist workshop in November 2019 at Bhimbedka, in which the leading artists, including our trustee, Sri Vasudev Kamatji, also participated, and it was very productive. Around 50 these paintings were produced by these artists, from the art hub. So we are planning also exhibition of these art forms which they produced. It was a very productive exhibition, this workshop. These are some photographs, just a general view. Narayan Vyasji just giving a brief to the artists, and then you can see artists making rock art paintings in zoo cave. We did a cultural program also, a star recital by Ms. Samta Nagdev in this connection, which was associated with again Vakankar celebration. On 4th of May this year, we also, our member secretary also released a virtual exhibition on the legacy of Vakankar, which you will find on the YouTube and on the Facebook also. Thank you. This was just glimpses of our activities, what we are doing in IGNK. So I think all the presentations are over. So I again request all the participants to send their queries and questions and answers to us. We will direct it to the scholars concerned and get the reply for you from them and then forward to you. And all those who have participated in full session can be awarded the participatory certificate. They may send their requests to the IGNK on the email ID is already communicated to you. So at the end of the exhibition, I think we should conclude if everybody is agreeing to it. Before that, I would like to thank all the participants who within a short notice of time of our request accepted our invitation and presented their beautiful research. So we must also thank our Honorable Member Secretary, who is always supportive and always guiding us in all the ventures. I must also thank Ms. Priya Sharma and Ms. Bhumika Suri of Digital India LMS technical team who were with us in the whole session and made this webinar successful. I must tell you this success of this webinar is to all the participants who have registered and who have also participated in it. We have around 1700 registrations and around 700 people participated in this webinar. Thank you very much.